It's time for Mental Health Moments. I'm Larry Jones,
And I'm Amy Horn.
and today we're going to be discussing fighting fair in relationships. Fighting fair in relationships. Now, for me, fighting fair means communicating in a respectful and constructive manner, even during conflicts, right? Um,
Yes.
you know, and it all depends what you say. Now, let's say this: we all know that arguments do occur in relationships. It's going to happen. But you don't want to go around saying stuff like, "Oh, well, that's why your daddy died of alcoholism." Do you know what I mean? That
Yes.
you just don't want to say stuff like that. First off, what does fighting fair mean to you? How would you define it?
So you said it best, respecting each other, not bringing ammunition out from past fights to throw at somebody on a current one, not one upping each other. Will you do this? Will you do that? Those are really negative communication skills. But there's also what Gottman and Gottman call the four horsemen of the apocalypse. You've got contempt, which is when you're speaking hateful, name calling, belittling, and demeaning someone.
Right.
You've got criticism, someone who's criticizing how you do things or what you're doing. There's defending, I'm going to defend myself against you instead of listen to what you're trying to tell me. And there's stonewalling, I'm going to walk away from you because I don't want to talk to you. I'm going to ignore you instead of communicating. So fighting fair means you stand, you deal with the solution that you need for the problem. Here's the problem I have. I want you to listen to me and understand why it's a problem for me and what would be a good solution.
Right.
Yes, I may do A, B, and C wrong, but right now we're working on this problem. Let's write this one down that you just brought up and we'll talk about that one next.
Right.
So you're not piling up issue after issue after issue and nothing getting solved.
Right. Now, how does it help build a healthy, strong relationship? Uh, because it can help
Yes.
build it if you, like you said, fair fight fair.
Well, it feels good when number one, you're understood. When somebody says, I hear it really bothers you that I'm leaving my shoes in the walkway. And I hear that you feel I don't care if you get hurt because you're a klutz and you're going to trip over them.
Yeah.
So maybe my solution would be so if I think I'm loved and cared about and I matter, I'm going to be excited. The minute somebody diverts and says, well, you leave dishes in the sink. Well, you just completely ignored what I was talking about. And you're just trying to one up me and make me the bad guy in the moment. And I'm not trying to make you the bad guy. I'm just asking for help. I'm asking for a change. When somebody changes for you in a way that shows, I care about you, I care about what you feel, I care about what you need, that's a bond. I
Right.
can tell my husband, hey, I need help with such and such. He not only hears me, he does it. And I don't wait, 30 times after I've asked for him to do it.
Right.
He just respects me enough to say, this is important and I'm going to do it. That's a huge bond when you
Yeah.
know that you're important.
Right.
We don't feel important to our spouse when we're ignored.
Right. Now, how can we learn to communicate effectively during an argument?
Well, first, you have to reflect what you heard
Hmm.
and what they felt. So, honey, I hear that my shoes being in the walkway are a problem for you and that you're worried you're going to get hurt and that I don't care that you're going to get hurt. I
Right.
do care that you don't get hurt. And I am going to work on either putting them to the left or the right of the closet, which would be a better option for you. So I reflect what was said, I reflect what was felt, and then I offer a solution. Sometimes it has to be a clarifying question. I'm confused. You said A, B, and C, but I'm confused by that because I remember it this way. Can you help me understand?
Right.
Or I'm confused by that. I don't remember saying that. Can you help me understand? I'm still reflecting what they said, what they felt, and then asking a clarifying question.
Right. Now, can you share some tips on handling, or you just pretty much did, I was going to say, handling some disagreements in a healthy way, and you pretty much answered that. Um,
Well, I mean, there's more. You've got to name the problem. What is the actual problem?
right. So the
Am
root of
I,
the problem, you have to get to the root cause of
Yeah.
the issue.
And it wasn't about the shoes.
Right.
It's about me being a klutz. And if I keep asking you to do something, you don't do it, I don't feel important. I don't feel loved. I don't feel it matters to you that I'm safe.
Right.
Right. So
Sometimes I believe, not to cut you off, but sometimes I believe it may be in some cases something deeper than the surface, what's on the surface.
it
You
always
know,
is.
yeah, so the shoes may not even be the problem.
Mm-mm.
It
Mm-mm.
can, because there is a root cause, and it can be something like you just probably just getting tired of one another, or getting tired of
Yes.
your spouse.
I remember a couple from umpteen million years ago, and she said she felt like she was living in a frat house. Um, her husband and her sons just left crap everywhere, and her husband left, you know, beer cans and glasses and everything all over the house. And she said she felt like she was spending all her time going through the house and picking up after everybody else. And she was just exhausted. And he would get so mad at her for not having energy for sex or date nights or things like that.
Right.
And so our solution was to have him help and have the children pick up after themselves. Now, these are adult children. They were not young children, they were teenagers. Have everybody pick up after themselves, and then she's not going to be so tired.
Right.
And he was like, well, I don't believe it'll work. I said, well, if you don't try it, you won't know.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
worked. She told him, she says, I feel like I'm parenting you. I feel like you're a frat boy, and I've got 3 frat boys living in my house. That's what he needed to hear to understand she was parenting her spouse.
Yeah.
He didn't want to be parented.
No.
He got tired of being parented. And your sex life dies when you're parenting your spouse. So whether it's the woman parenting the man or the man parenting the woman, you can't be a parent to your spouse and it create a great sex life. It's just not
Yeah.
going to happen.
Yeah. And do not mask or hide your feelings. If something is there bothering you, and you get upset because someone left the whatever, something in the sink, like you said, or whatever the case may be, and it's that small that it triggers you to jump into an argument, then you have to look deeper into what's really happening.
Yeah,
You
and
know,
this lady would like slam cabinet doors.
see,
She would
yeah,
get so mad. And I said, I want you to think about this. That's not going to make him want to come to you and ask you, honey, what's wrong? That's
right,
going to make him be like, okay, she's pissed off. I'm just going to go the other direction.
right,
But if she would say to him, I'm really upset that you did or that you said, because passive aggressive is slamming things around, throwing things around. Passive aggression doesn't tell the other person you're mad at them. For all he knows, she could be mad at one of the kids. She could be mad at her boss. She could be mad at herself. But passive aggressive doesn't actually speak to what the problem is. It doesn't solve anything. It just irritates everybody else, and you don't even communicate what's really going on.
right. Now, what are some of the common mistakes people make when you're fighting? I mean, like we said, the dialogue we use, the things we say, those are the key things. But there's a lot of mistakes, and there's going to be mistakes in relationship. We
All the
understand that
time.
in relationships. It's always going to be mistakes. It's always going to be things we shouldn't do.
Absolutely.
What are some
One
of
of
the common
the
ones?
biggest things right now that I think really annoys me is I feel some kind of way.
Yeah.
Okay, what kind of way do you feel? Are you feeling ignored, neglected? I cannot stand to hear somebody say, I feel disrespected. What does that really mean?
Yeah.
But if you say, I feel neglected, I feel ignored, I feel I don't matter, I feel unimportant to you, right? Those are things that explain it. I feel belittled when you are talking over me. I feel you don't respect what I'm saying to you, and you don't want to hear me when you speak over me. So, really wording it so that you're not just saying, oh, you're being disrespectful. The person may not see it as disrespectful. But if you say, well, I feel unimportant when you don't include me in your plans for the weekend, that
Right.
makes a whole different story than you're
Yeah.
disrespecting me,
Yeah.
right?
It tells you what the problem is.
Yeah.
you know, and you don't
And
want
we
to
could
end up
one up each other all day because we're
all
both
day.
going to make mistakes.
Right, right. Yeah,
There's not a couple on earth that has a perfect person. And what drives me nuts most of the time is you've got a couple and one person refuses to see anything they're doing wrong.
everyone wants to be right in that
Ah,
situation.
So the problem is you can't be right and your spouse always be wrong
Right,
and that relationship work.
right.
You've got to look at how can we both win? Because if I win every argument, at some point my husband's going to get tired of being a loser and vice versa. So if we can win by finding a solution that works for both of us, now I may not get what I want,
Right.
I might have to compromise, but can I live with this solution? Can he live with this solution so neither of us feel like a loser? Nobody wants to feel like a loser.
Right.
And there are a lot of arguments where somebody's constantly a loser. Somebody's constantly feeling defeated. And if I feel defeated all the time, at some point I'm going to find somebody that won't create the feeling of defeat in me.
There you go.
And that's male or female. Usually affairs happen other than your narcissistic people who will cheat just because they can. Most affairs start with an emotional connection, feeling unheard or unloved, feeling ignored or not cared about, feeling you don't matter, or I've tried to say this a million ways and they're still not listening or hearing me. That's when affairs really do start. So couples just need to stop fighting to win, stop fighting to be the better person and be right all the time, and stop one-upping each other and just work on this is the problem right now. Write down on a piece of paper all the problems that have not been solved.
Right.
And then look for solutions to the problem and then talk about that.
So
You should be able to have conversations instead of arguments and fights.
right.
Arguments and fights don't work. Conversations, solutions works.
So at the end of the day, communication is definitely the key
Yes.
to a healthy relationship.
If sex isn't working, talk about it.
Yeah.
If date night's not working, talk about it. If parenting's not working, talk about it. You can't fix a problem if you don't know what it is.
Right.
I can't fix something I said to my husband if I don't know what upset him.
Right. Now, how does apologies play a role in it?
So a real apology is when I said or when I did A, B, and C to you, I realize it did E, F, G, and you felt X, Y, Z.
Right.
Even if it wasn't my intent, that's what I did to you. And for that, I'm truly sorry. I hope you'll forgive me. In the future, I will or will not ABC.
Right.
When you tell somebody, okay, well, okay can mean a lot of things. It could be, okay, screw you,
Yeah.
right?
Okay. Whatever.
Okay,
Right.
I don't care. But if you say, I'm sorry, what does that really mean? You're just saying words. It doesn't really matter. But if you give a full compliment of, I know when I did or said this, it did this to you. Even though it wasn't my intent, I would never want to do that to you. So in the future, I'm going to work on or do differently XYZ.
Right.
That's a real apology.
Right. Wow. This is some good stuff. And you want to avoid there's that dance. You want to avoid the sunken place because once you get there, it's going to be hard to get out of it. You can eventually
So
get out of
many.
it. Yeah, but you don't
So
want to
many
end
couples come to me when they're a foot out the door,
Yeah,
or they've gone to an attorney, or they
yeah,
bought different houses. It's like, wait a minute, now you want to work on it.
yeah,
And often I find they don't really want to work on it. They want to be right. And they come to me like I'm a referee. And I don't work that way. Like, you're both right, you're both wrong. You're both right about how you feel,
right,
wrong about how you're communicating it to each other. You're wrong about how you're receiving it possibly. But you're both right and you're both wrong. There is no couple where somebody is void of doing something wrong.
right,
Even me. I mean, I do things wrong in my marriage all the time. And my husband, as wonderful as he is, makes mistakes all the time. But we know how to admit it, own it, apologize and get over it, and offer a better solution. And it just makes a world of difference in marriage. When you feel like you have a team player, you have a partner, you're having this connection that goes deeper. That emotional connection is what most people are missing.
Right. And you know, you don't want it to get to the point where it becomes physical.
Mm.
Because once you start hitting below the belt and you want to be right all the time and you feel, you know, your spouse or your girlfriend or boyfriend is wrong all the time,
Yeah.
that can escalate really quickly into something physical.
Yes.
You know, so
And that's
drop us.
because there's a lack of how to communicate
Yeah.
what I'm feeling in that moment. And that's usually anger management. I remember my oldest kid one time, Corey, was like, Mom, you need anger management classes. And I was like, let me back it up a minute. Let me calm
Right.
myself down. Let me talk to this teenager. Because at the time he was a teenager and I really wanted to strangle him. And so I had to back it up, remove some of that anger, and then have a communication with him that worked. So yeah, it's very important. A lot of people don't realize that verbal abuse, emotional abuse, and physical abuse are all the same kind of damage. I've heard
Yeah.
people say, well, I never hit her. I never hit him. And I'm like, but the emotional abuse is way worse.
Same. Yeah.
You're name calling, you're belittling, you're demeaning, you're condescending. And so you don't want to hit where it hurts, low blows, jabs, sarcasm, snarkiness, none of that.
Right.
You can say, like, I'll look at my husband sometimes and be like, I'm trying to be mad at you. Quit trying to make me laugh. And you can be lighthearted and loving in the middle of a disagreement.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
But the
Okay.
problem is that disagreement turns into a fight because in the disagreement, somebody doesn't feel heard, cared about, or loved.
Right.
Well, sometimes you're with somebody that doesn't actually care, doesn't actually love, and doesn't know how. So a lot of people get angry about that. Why stay in that relationship?
Yeah. When should we leave a relationship?
Good question. Um, for me, it's always been not getting into a relationship that I don't feel would work for me.
Right.
The person may be amazing, but maybe their ethics, morals, politics, religion maybe wouldn't line up with me, or maybe we don't have enough interests in common. Nobody wants a spouse that never does anything with them,
Right.
right? Nobody wants a spouse that's still out partying like it's, in college
Yeah.
days and we're adults. You know, some women don't want to be with somebody that games all the time, and this guy games all the time. Well, she needs somebody that doesn't do that, and he needs somebody that would.
Right.
So, just because the gamer wouldn't be her choice, it doesn't mean there's not a woman that would love to game with him and be that
Yeah.
person for him. So, knowing what you want and what you don't want. What are your deal breakers? Right? I'm not going to date somebody that would, you know, do drugs or alcohol. I had a husband that died from that. And so if somebody drank heavily or did drugs, that would have been a deal breaker for me. And I would have been like, I don't even want to date this person. So knowing what you want, what you don't want.
Okay. I have one for you. Compatibility, right? You're compatible in the beginning.
Yeah.
Everything is beautiful. And then you get into it, let's say you're 3 years in, and we all know that people change. Someone changes and he becomes this gamer, addicted to games now. He's buying all of the new games and the latest whatever. And now he's stuck in that. And now she's like, okay, where did this come from?
Well, you're not stuck in it for one.
Right, right. You're never
And
stuck.
two, right, you're not stuck. And two, I think what happens a lot is when we're trying to date somebody, we're trying to mold who we are to who they want instead of this is who I am, take it or leave it, right? Because I'm not going to try to put on airs to be something I'm not, because then when they figure out who I really am, they're not going to like it.
Right.
So we got to be authentically who we are from the beginning. If I'm a hateful person in the mornings, I'm just going to be like, look, I'm not a morning person. Before 8 a.m., don't speak to me. right?
Right.
I want them to know that ahead of time, so 3 months down the road, they don't figure that out. Well, you're so grumpy in the mornings. I pretended. No, that doesn't work. But you're never stuck. I think what happens to a lot of couples now, they'll live together. They'll move
That's
in together out of convenience, finances, whatever the reasoning is. And then they feel stuck because, well, I can't get out of it. I can't move away. I can't do. So I typically say that I'm not going to live with somebody on a maybe.
right.
If they don't know they want me, there's no reason to live together.
I was gonna ask that. Should
Right?
we live together before, you know?
Mm. It depends on the reason.
Yeah.
So an example would be you live in two different areas when you meet.
Right.
And you know you're getting married. You know that this is somebody that you want to spend your life with, and you can make an agreement, right? And it work. And if it doesn't, what is your plan, right? Some people need to live together to know whether or not it would work for them. Well,
Yeah.
if you date them long enough, you would know. Like I knew if I went out with somebody and visited their home and it was gross, I would not want to live with that person.
Yeah.
Like there's a no-brainer. If your toilet's gross and I got to sit my honey on it, it ain't happening.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that would be something that, you need to really look at. People start dating, they go out, they have good meals, they enjoy their time, they start having sex, and they ignore all the big questions. There's a
Blinded
book.
by the feeling
Yep,
of the
because I
moment.
feel elated, and then the
Yeah.
feeling dies, and what do you do with it?
Have
Well, you don't
nothing.
even know each other.
Right.
So there's a book called 101 Questions to Ask Before You're Engaged. If you cannot answer those questions for yourself, you shouldn't be dating.
Wow. We have to put that up on the screen.
It's a great book. It's like super thin. It's not like insane at all. But what I found, most couples will be like, I didn't know how to answer it for myself.
Right.
You've got to figure it out for yourself before you bring another person into it. If I don't know the way I want my finances for myself, how am I going to know what I want with a spouse financially? Like,
Right.
we've got to know how we would handle parents at the holidays. If we have children, what would we do for the holidays? So the questions in the book are just phenomenal, but
Right.
they really make you dig deeper, because a lot of times we ask silly questions. First, favorite color. How does
Yeah.
that affect your relationship? Favorite movie. How does that affect your relationship?
I mean, I don't think it does.
Favorite foods. How does it affect your relationship?
I mean, it's a conversation piece, but it doesn't, you know.
It's not deep. It's
No.
not deep at all. And a lot of couples, I think they start dating not realizing they're not even ready to date. They don't even know what they want. I
Right.
give an assignment to every patient that I see that's single. It's called Pros, Cons, and Deal Breakers. You write down everything you absolutely have to have in a person. Cons, things you don't necessarily like, but they're not deal breakers, could become deal breakers. And then you've got your deal breakers list. And then you go down your cons. Which one of these could be a deal breaker or become a deal breaker? Well, maybe the guy games a lot and I don't like it. Well,
Yeah.
when would it be a deal breaker? Maybe he drinks a lot, but only on the weekends. But could it become a deal breaker? Like, knowing what you want and don't want. So if I wanted a man who's in church every time the doors are open, and he's, in Bible studies, and he's all about God, if I get somebody who doesn't really go to church, and my con is, well, they don't really go to church regularly, and I'm
Yeah.
wanting somebody that's all in it, that's not really somebody that would be compatible.
Yeah. You
And
start settling for something just to have someone in your life.
yeah, and if
And
you know your deal breakers, you can be on a first date, and within 10 minutes, this person would never work for you.
yeah, and you
I'm
can.
allergic to cats. Somebody with a cat would be a deal breaker.
I love
It
cats.
would break
You
my
allergic
heart.
to cats?
I do. I love cats, but I'm so allergic. Like, I have a pulmonary issue,
Oh,
and I can't breathe very well.
right.
Sometimes I have a patient that has cats that comes into my office, and I struggle to breathe.
Yeah.
And it's because of that reaction. But I mean, I love them. And it doesn't mean the guy wouldn't be a fantastic guy, but that was a deal breaker because I knew how bad my allergy was. And you should never change a person to be with them. I would never say, please get rid of your pet. Like it wouldn't work. And so, you know, if you are dating somebody and you're like, I would like to change A, B, C, D, E, F, G about this person, don't date them.
Yeah.
I like this person if only. Don't date them.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
person's mother drives me nuts. Don't date them. This
There you go.
person's, you know, friends are horrible. Well, your 5 closest friends are closer to who you really are. You may not like your person when you really get to know them. If their 5 closest friends are like them, you're going to find you may not really enjoy this person after all. Got to get to know people and what you want first. If you don't know what you want, how are you going to know what you want in a partner?
Right. Well, once again, you are watching Mental Health Moments with Larry and Amy. I love the shirt. Give them some information on that shirt and where can they get it? What does it say right now?
This says just having a mental health moment. I created this in honor of our show, and because a lot of people are out in public and they're really struggling, and this shirt just says it all. I'm just having a mental health moment. It's because we have a moment of mental crisis, a moment of mental stress or mental anxiety. It's just a moment. It will pass.
There you go.
So that's why I created it.
You
Coping
always
with
know
life
what to say.
therapy.
You
Right.
always know what to say. You always have the right words to say. Let's give it up for my co-host Amy. Well, I'm
And
actually
Coping with Life Therapy, PLLC.com is where you can purchase
where you
all
can
kinds
get
of
it.
mental health. There's one that says peace and blessings come with knowing who I am. There's one that says just out here coping with life, go be awesome, because I say that to everybody when I leave my sessions. And I got this because you got this. And then good enough, because most patients find that the theme of self-belief is I'm not good enough.
Yeah.
And we're all good enough. Nobody else can tell us we're not good enough.